Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantamania is undeniably one of the most divisive MCU movies ever. Some people are dying on the hill of defending it. Some people think it is the worst thing to ever plague humanity ever. People have issues with the characters, the dialogue, the pacing, the writing, the CGI, pretty much everything, but we are not going to be talking about any of that today. Instead, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite elements of the movie, as I'm sure you could tell by the thumbnail, MODOK. From this point on, there are spoilers for Quantumania. It is really difficult to talk about MODOK, of all people, without getting into spoilers, because every element of his character is a spoiler. If you haven't seen Quantumania yet, get out of here, go watch it. Boot up this video while waiting for the post-credit scene. It'll be fine. No one will mind. Someone actually did that in my second showing of the movie. They whipped out TikTok, started playing it full volume during the credits. No one even said anything, so you're fine. The main question I want to tackle in this video is, did the MCU waste MODOK as a character? In order to properly answer that question, let's set up a little bit of background on MODOK as a character. In Marvel Comics and most other forms of media, MODOK is George Tarleton, who is a low-level AIM employee who goes through this insane experiment, giving his mind incredible capabilities. He volunteered to do this experiment for AIM, which resulted in him becoming a mix between man and machine, who would be able to make millions of calculations in a second and become one of the smartest beings in the entire Marvel Universe. Not only did this experiment make him one of the smartest beings in the universe, it made him one of the goofiest by far. Yeah, at the end of the day, MODOK is a giant floating head with little baby legs and little baby arms. He looks absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, that's pretty much all you need to know about the base form of MODOK in comics and other adaptations, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that is literally nothing like the movie MODOK at all, and you are 100% right. As we all know, MODOK in the movie is Darren Cross, who was the villain in the first Ant-Man. He was Yellow Jacket, and he went on to become MODOK after he was shrunk by Scott and sent to the Quantum Realm. While in the Quantum Realm, he becomes MODOK. He ends up working for Kang, who saved him, and becomes Kang's machine, who wipes out entire civilizations in the Quantum Realm, presumably, and is more or less a monster. Now, a huge question is making MODOK, not George Tarleton and this entirely different character, a waste of what MODOK could be in the MCU. He's not tied to AIM, he doesn't fight Captain America, unrelated to what he's known for in the comics. Would MODOK have been better serviced in a Captain America 4 movie or a different Ant-Man movie, which we will get into in a little bit? One of the most divisive bits about his character within this movie is the design. He is a ridiculous floating head. He has a mask on sometimes, which makes him all the more menacing, but ultimately he is Corey Stoll, the actor that plays Darren Cross, just his head stretched out. He looks ridiculous. He looks like Humpty Dumpty. He's goofy. What else can you really say? Now, people familiar with MODOK say that they have abandoned the body horror aspect of the character. You know, a lot of the times he'll have a permanent frown, these creepy white eyes, pale, flushed out skin. We don't really get that. We just get the actor's face blown up. Fair enough. And people unfamiliar with MODOK just kind of think he's goofy looking, which he absolutely is supposed to be. He is a floating head. I mean, come on. MODOK's character arc throughout the movie is very simple and weird. He starts off as Kang's monster, machine, whatever you want to call him, and by the end he's inspired, I guess you would say, by the Ant family and ends up turning on Kang, in the process joining the Avengers, becoming one of the strongest Avengers. Actually, he did kind of save the multiverse, so people better be putting some respect on his name. But anyway, that is not the point. By the end of the movie, MODOK is dead. Undeniably, 100% dead. Did the MCU waste him by having him be largely unrelated to comic book MODOK and seemingly a one-off appearance? I would argue kind of. Is that necessarily like the worst thing in the world? No. No matter what anyone on Twitter tries to tell you, MODOK is not a Doctor Doom level villain. I've seen more MODOK fans in the last week of my life than I have in the last 20 years. It's insane. He's not that big of a deal, ultimately. Sorry to any MODOK fans out there. He's just not. But I'm sure the 3 actual genuine MODOK fans are disappointed by this, and hey, they have every right to be. If one of my favorite characters was adapted in a completely different way, I'm sure I wouldn't be thrilled about it either. The unfortunate bit about this is I think the movie could have done just a couple things differently to make MODOK not a waste. Before we get into that, I think it's important to say, who knows if MODOK could come back? I mean, it's a comic book movie. He could come back at any point. I actually kind of like the idea of a lot of alternate versions of Kang having their own MODOK, kind of like a Rick and Morty situation. So George Tarleton could still exist. This version of MODOK could still exist. You know, it's not out of the realm of possibilities at all. Anyway, when it comes specifically to this version of MODOK we see in Quantumania, here are some of the things I would change to make him less of a waste and more of a almost recurring character. I think you could do pretty much everything the same. You know, he works for Kang. He's ridiculous. You could keep the design the same. You could even keep most of his arc the same. Change a little bit at the end, but you have this character who has been through a lot, has been banished to the quantum realm. Maybe he's treated a little bit less as a joke in this version. He's still a joke, obviously. He's fucking MODOK. I mean, come on. But maybe he's taken a little more seriously. We see some of his time in the quantum realm. We see him almost be a slave to Kang. We kind of, you know, inflict the viewer's mind with the fact that he could turn on Kang. It's something possible. It's something he might even want to do. So everything largely plays out the same. We get to the final battle. MODOK rushes in, obviously, to stop Kang. Same way it happens in the movie, thus defeating Kang. For now, he gets carried off by ants. All fine, all great. Except this time, he doesn't die. He's fine. He's damaged. He's beat up for sure. He's definitely not going to be fighting anymore, but he's fine. And he doesn't, you know, call Scott his brother. He hates Scott. He hates Hank. That doesn't change at all. He wants to fight them. He might even try to kill them before realizing how weak he is. So now we have Darren Cross, former guy on top of the world, you know, killing it on Earth. He's now a giant floating head. He's rebelled against his master in this world. And he's pissed. He's pissed at Scott. He's pissed at Hank. Why wouldn't he be? They took everything from him. He sucks, obviously, but from his point of view, they're the bad guys. The third act up to this point is largely the same. We'll say everyone gets out through the portal, but MODOK sneaks on through. However he does it, I don't care. It's not up to me. I mean, I am technically writing this version. Who cares? He gets out. That's all that's important. And now you have this ridiculous character who could now pop up in any corner of the MCU at any point. He becomes a mercenary. Maybe he gets involved with AIM and becomes more like the comic MODOK we know. I would love to see him interact with some other characters like She-Hulk or Captain America. The possibilities are endless. You still get this goofy, ridiculous spin on MODOK that is nothing like George Charlton, but also he's not wasted. He is around. He could pop up in any corner of the MCU. We now have this ridiculous floating head baby man going after people. He could hunt down Scott. And in this world, that could even be what Ant-Man 4 is about. A low-level story about Scott, Cassie, and Hope up against Darren Cross, who is now MODOK and the head of AIM. Overall, I genuinely loved MODOK in this movie. I don't like saying he was a waste because I think his character served a purpose. He was a lot of fun. He got the most laughs out of my theater. He's one of the few characters that we see their bare ass, which, I mean, that's got to be an achievement, I'm sure. Ultimately, by seemingly killing him off, I do think the MCU wasted a major opportunity with him. Whether or not that's a waste, that's up to you. I'm not here to judge. Thank you so much for watching this. This is my first long form YouTube video I've ever made. I'm sure it was terrible. I wrote a little bit of a script and then kind of spitballed 99% of it. I doubt this video is even 5 minutes, honestly, but thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I promise I will get better in the future. And if you enjoyed, please feel free to hit like and subscribe. It would mean the world. If not, all good. I hope you enjoyed.